few shoulder bumps. Thankfully, everyone stayed upright, Brian, but it's a compression.
There is. There will always be these kind of slight compressions. There's more coming up as you see these, small bridges and things like that. This is the information that the riders will be, giving out to each other. The riders at the front, so just let everybody know. But these are all the stuff that's in the run-in that is in the road book, and the sports directors will just make it, everybody aware of this. But you say that in this part of the world, just like Scotland, there are short summers, but it doesn't get dark.
No. You can actually go for a ride in entire day time, and of course you have the eternal night during the winter as well. 20.6 kilometres to go. They're going to charge into the foot of this final climb, Brian. It's worth relaying exactly what they're dealing with. It does get very, very twisty late on. In fact, we have a hairpin at 500 metres to go. 2 turns in the last 200 as well. One, it'd be reasonably high paced as well, sort of open 90 degree, if that makes sense. First to the left, then to the right. So at 200 and 100, they'll be racing potentially for each one of those corners. Could be a selective sprint late on, going up the mountain, as you will. But I think there's going to be some big gaps because they'll try and make it as hard as possible. 5 or 6 riders duking it out. That's what I'm seeing in my mind's eye. 81 seconds only the gap, 20 to go. They're not even thinking about the breakaway up front. Brian, this is about carrying impetus into the final climb and putting the hurt on those who are around you at the moment within the pack.
I think first and foremost you don't want to make it difficult for yourself and your team and the rider that you're looking after. So first and foremost, bring these riders back. Like I was saying earlier on, you don't want to bring them back too soon because then you get the hit and hopers. So I just make sure that you bring them back within a minute where we get inside till about 10 kilometres to go, and then you've got them within their sights, because anything could happen. You don't want to take anything by chance. There could be a crash, could be a puncture, anything like that. So you want to kind of bring them back now. But like you say, you actually don't really see the finish until about 100 metres to go, a little bit less. And like you say, at 200 metres to go, it swings left and then swings right. But I think there'll be such a pace. I don't think it'll be broken up as much, this peloton, but definitely there'll be some gaps.
I don't think the race organisers thought there'd be this many riders together at this point in the race. Very, very modest, as you can see. The width of the road, probably 4 metres. Probably at the maximum in some places. A lot of pinching going on here. And riders being called up to move up by their DSs, and they won't all fit. Best place to be is out front, and that's where Quickstep Alpha Vinyl find themselves right now. And look at EF Education Easy Post in that pouncing position at the moment. Michael Valgren today? I don't know. Let's see. It's time for them to stretch their legs. Remy Cavagna out of the saddle, the French champion, resplendent in his tricolore. We have Mads Schmidt as well, the Danish champion for Israel Premier Tech, not that far off the front either. Still a couple, both Johanssons, I believe, for Uno X Pro. Both Anders and indeed Tobias, who'll be the favourite later on, but maybe Anders today, or maybe Jonas Greyard. We'll see. He is on decent form as well. Had a good Liège, did the young Dane within that Uno X Pro in that sort of custody yellow up towards the front, on the front at the moment, plus 5 riders at hand. Israel looked lively, Brian. I think the Patrick Bevan prediction is coming true.
Possibly. I know that's your prediction, but he's got some competition.
So very possibly, or maybe
yes. not. No, I think he's in a good position. I think there are 1 or 2 riders that are faster. I think Bevan would prefer it to be maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit harder from what I see in his form from Turkey. But that was a few weeks ago. What's he done since then? And he'll be up against it from others. EF in the pink, definitely. Valgren, although Valgren, his last race I was just looking at was at the start of April, where La Fresh Briançon, Brabant Speel, he was 11th. He hasn't had too much to shout about this year, but slowly but surely he's starting to come better. And I know he's a Dane, but you know, I think he would love to win a stage, and why not today? He'll be there and thereabouts for sure.
Well, it's not exactly altitude, despite the fact that we're going to be coming away from what is effectively sea level here. Just let's see how it pans out, though. At the moment, they're really racing the terrain, as you can see. They're not hanging around. And en masse, some moves coming, and I'm just looking to see if Battaglin is actually getting himself up and ready. Certainly looks that way. May well be Fiorelli that we were mentioning a little bit earlier as well. In days of old, he's now 32, Battaglin, so he's had his younger days are behind him, but you know, surprises can happen as well. I don't think we're going to be surprised by this breakaway, but then again, we've got some real strength here. But the way that they've gone up the last climb, I do fear for them right now. Still some way to go, Brian, but they've got these little lumplets to deal with before we actually get our last classification, which really, it does not count until the last 2.7 kilometres, but climbing on the approach to get there.
It's rolling all the way to the finishing climb. It's, you know, when you go along these, you know, sea locks, it's always up and down. We've seen that throughout the day, and you know, anybody that's ridden their bike or raced here in Norway, there's very little flat. It is pretty much up and down small roads, and you know, we've just seen some riders kind of drop bottles. There's some holes. I know you're saying the road conditions are good considering the weather we have in this part of the world, especially over the winter, but it's getting you know, faster as we start heading in towards the finish. And like we see, the riders are starting to get themselves in colour order, and Quick Step in the blue now have kept Evenepoel pretty much all day. He's ridden in the top 10 riders all day. He's taken nothing by chance. Even coming around these wee kind of pinch points, the road's slightly damp. You don't want to take any risk whatsoever.
Who do you see from Jumbo-Visma? Because they've, I don't think it's the strongest team. Yeah, let's see.
Timo Russen can go well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He tried. He tried in the Veenendaal Classic, and he looked strong enough. Tosh van der Sande is another one that can finish well in these type of finishes. So Tosh van der Sande and Mike Teunissen are two riders that I've highlighted in the past.
Tosh van der Sande, he's back from injury, isn't he?
Tosh, I'm not too sure, but you know, this for Teunissen, this is his first since Paris-Roubaix, where he finished 20th. But for Tosh, I think Tosh van der Sande, he swapped teams. He was riding for Lotto Soudal for so many years, and has swapped teams. But he hasn't raced since the kind of Cobble Classics as well. So he's been out, and I think there was either crash but a bit of injury. So it'll be interesting to see. But definitely, they have got this type of finish in their locker.
Let's have a look. Esteban Chavez at the moment seems to be guiding Michael Valgren, which kind of fits what we were predicting a little bit earlier on. We will see if that is indeed the case. A little bit of moisture in the centre of the road. Been some rain through here. These guys must have felt like they were kicking up a storm, but if you look back, you'll see the peloton potentially coming into view. That'll be our first sort of single frame with everybody in it shot. Can't quite see it just for the time being, but 1:12 is what they hold with 13.7 kilometres. They're giving a good shake of the fist here, Brian. They want to go as deep into this day as they possibly can. I don't think there's a combativity award either in this race, but they are making a good show of things, holding 1:25 with 13.2 to go.
Yeah, I think the peloton have to kind of shut it down a little bit more. Joseph Czerny, his day is over. He swung over about a kilometre ago. So Quick Step have already used up one rider, like I was saying, 6 riders in a team, now 5 riders left. And if you want to protect a certain rider, but you have to commit, you have to bring these riders back. You don't want to take anything by chance. I know they run into the finish. Once we get up to the western side of this loch, we start to double back, so it's a bit more of a tailwind at the moment, and we'll double back on ourselves over the other side, and it'll be a bit more of a headwind. But yeah, we still need a little bit of firepower towards the front to bring these riders back. It's still just 2 riders, one from Uno X and you know, one from Quick Step, and you know, Ineos have decided to sit back a little bit. But, you know, I have to say that with 1 minute and 14 seconds, I don't think there's any panic or any danger. It's still doable, but it's often you see, once you start to see the 25 kilometres to go, once we get into the final, I know it's hard to say when you get yourself in a breakaway, but if you save that little bit, okay, they battled it out for the King of the Mountains. They kind of rolled through the sprints of the day, but they've only had 2 efforts so far today, and then it's about saving that little bit of energy and then really kind of pushing in to the final. And you have to have a cohesive group, all 6 riders committed. We've seen it happen in the past where the breakaway breaks down or the breakaway combines and it goes late, but add in this final climb at the end, you just see the Uno X rider just getting pushed in. He's almost spent,
Abrahamson,
but he get pushed into the line there and can do a couple of more turns. But yeah, this last climb, 2.1 kilometres. I know it's averaging 8.4. The steepest part is actually the last kind of 150, 200 metres. So I think it's safe to be said that even if this group hits this final climb with 15, 20 seconds, they'll be swept up by the finish.
Tosh van der Sande was just moving up on the outside, screened by these guys on your screen at the moment. So clearly, if indeed there were any question marks about him due to injury, then he is back for it and motivated. In fact, he's part of what is a big engine room. Turnison is there as well. Just seeing who he's guiding, who he is kind of working for at the moment. Van Hooijdonk just part of that group as well. Meanwhile, on the other side, you can see Kai Rural, dead centre of the road. Bora Hansgrohe in their sort of petrol green, petrol blue. Work it out for yourselves. Meanwhile, out front, still Quick Step, Alpha Vinyl. They've done a lot of work. Sometimes teams can end up doing too much. You can see one of their number here, Joe Cherney, who is now just making sure he keeps up, as you will. And it looks like Luke Plapp has done his job as well, unless, well, in fact, the whole Ineos Grenadiers team in relaxed mode just for the time being. They did a bit of the driving work earlier on today, but seem to have found themselves accepting their position just for the time being. That will change pretty soon. Gap back down to a minute, but less than 10 kilometres to go. They clearly don't believe the brake's got the legs to dominate this climb.
They can see the breakaway, but you can see also the breakaway are putting up a big fight. Everybody committed to this, which is nice to see. We go up to the end of this lake and then we do this loop back, and it's a bit more of a tailwind at the moment. We saw Cherney, he's done his job, he's sitting at the back. I did notice that it was left a Quick Step at the front. I did say that, you know, you really have to make sure. Yeah, he actually pulled to the side of the road. I don't know if he stopped for a natural break or had a puncture there, but he definitely stopped at the back, and that's probably why Quick Step have kind of knocked it off a little bit. But I did notice that Israel Premier Tech was starting to put a rider up towards the front, but like always, Ethan Hayter rides at the back, and that's why he's got a couple of teammates round about him. When he feels relaxed, safer at the back, and that's the way he rides. And I think in a recent race we saw that, you know, that didn't help. I think it was Roman Day when you know, he's involved with a crash, but that's the way he rides, and you know, he knows it's not a big peloton. He's a bit more relaxed, and he'll be brought up, you know, when he wants to be brought up, and instead of, you know, wasting that energy kind of fighting towards the front and fighting for the wheels. But I'll say now that Evenepoel was brought up. I just saw him drift to the side of the road. I saw this blue jersey. Didn't know if it was him because nobody kind of really stopped with him, but it did look as if he's had a wheel change, and as soon as he's had that wheel change, he's back to where he has pretty much been all day. So Israel have now started to ride with Quick Step, and this gap will start to come down now.
Just past Lucas Ericsson, who's the bright light for Rewell Cycling in the orange. That was Evenepoel just getting himself back to his teammates who are up front. Still no panic at all. Looks like there's almost been an accord here. There is Ethan Hayter, defending champion for Ineos Grenadiers, and Trek liven up. They got Marcus Holgaard. I still think Gianluca Brambilla is going to have a dig today. Mads Pedersen on board, Alex Kirsch. Baroncini as well, bit of a puncher, Pippo Baroncini for them. Israel Premier Tech, Carl Freddie Hagen, Pat Bevan, my pick for the day, and Daryl Impey doing a fine job. Also looking at the Johannessens for Uno X Pro, they're also working right now. When does the work rate suddenly become frantic? Well, just look at how these guys are in a much more relaxed power-saving mode back here, and how busy they're having to work for Uno X Pro up front. It's a very different demeanour, those who are screened at the back and those who are doing the work up front. Shane Archbold looking quite twitchy as well. He's got a job to do today. Is he for Utebrooks, Van Daal, Ida Schelling, or himself? 47 kilometres to go, and it looks like there's a storm brewing here, Brian.
Yeah, I think we'll get it dry in towards the finish. It's only 7.2 kilometres, but this gap is coming down 47 seconds now into this bit of a kind of more nagging headwind now, which isn't going to help the breakaway. They have a good fight, but like you say, a lot of movement. Christoph Sintermarche team coming up the right-hand side there in the fluorescent colour on the sleeve there. But yet again, Ineos with Hayter doing what he wants to do, just sitting back. We're on a wide road, no real panic, want to save energy. You just see it's a little bit nervous. You use up riders towards the front. You see EF on the right hand side, Cavagna next to them for Quick Step, but you either go to the front and use up your riders and you've got that kind of nervousness of that kind of movement around, or you make a judgment call and sit where Ineos are and just kind of relax a little bit. They know it's an uphill finish. It's not as if it's a sprint finish, and it's on good roads all the way up towards the finish. It's not kind of really narrow. So, but we get this quite often these days where this is the done thing. This is what you have to do. You have to battle for the front, and it just gets really, really nervous. Well, if you sit towards the back, you make these judgments. I think Quick Step did it before with Marcel Kittel. They would just let everybody battle towards the front, just sit there, and all of a sudden at 3 kilometres ago they were there, and I think you have to have the nous to be able to do that. When is the time to move up? And like you say, they have got a good road captain in Luke Rowe, and he'll know. He'll make sure that Ethan Hayter is relaxed and then move up at the right time.
So many options at the moment. Just looking at Trek, Brambilla is on the back of this line. Mads Pedersen just sitting in front of him. This looks like a tee-up for Brambilla, 15th in the backcountry. Didn't have a great Romandy, but suddenly you can find that sort of fun. He's that kind of form. He is a classy rider on his day, and 34 years of age now. Used to be grist to the mill, this kind of finish for him. Meanwhile, you can see lots of work being done here by Remy Cavagna trying to guide Remco Evenepoel. He's got two of his teammates behind him at the moment, Kasper Asgreen and is it Stibar that's also there? DSM for them, really haven't mentioned them. Søren Kragh Andersen is here, Marco Brenner, Kevin Vermark as well, Sam Welsford. It's a strong team, but then again there's an awful lot of strong teams here, and at the moment they've all got just about the same kind of chance. We've lost a few riders, but 22 seconds, these guys have lost any chance of finishing off the job, and we're charging into the climb, Brian, which is only shy of 3 kilometres in length, so we'll be there before you know it.
And we'll look at the pictures at the front of the main group there. There was a lot of riders really making big efforts at the front. And I know the kind of technical nature here, it's always better to be at the front than further back. And, this road nature could cause some concern. And you see a few riders kind of bunny hopping, but it's really nervous. It's moving all over the place. Riders are being used up left, right and centre. There's no control in this peloton. It's very difficult to control it, and especially with 5.3 to go, there are a lot of riders drifting back in the peloton now, having already done their turn at the front.
Just look at the way that was compressed through a couple of sequences of road furniture. We came off a highway, we made the turn towards the climb, and guess who? Ineos Grenadiers find themselves where they want to be, at the front. Ethan Hayter, Theo Gegenhardt, Luke Plapp, who did a lot of work earlier on. I don't think he's part of proceedings at the moment. Luke Rowe will be bringing his famed Dick Dastardly Tash up to the front as well. This is going to be a big approach for Ineos Grenadiers, and essentially they've been very quiet for much of the day, and they're about to go very, very loud, Brian.
Yeah, into town, the first, kind of real technical series of corners now. They're almost upon the breakaway, so, we go left, swing round this furniture now, and, they have the breakaway pretty much in their sight, so caught with just over 4 kilometres to go, but like you said, they were at the back, and all of a sudden you get into the kind of first technical part of this run-in, and Luke Rowe has brought the team towards the front, and now they're in control.
We've got a flyer. I think it may well be from the breakaway. I think it's Frederick Muff who's just rolled off to try and be last man standing. So who's going to shake a fist at the man up front and indeed at everyone behind them? Let's see. Intermarché wanting in position. Premier Tech wanting to battle back after that compression, and they're all coming back together right now. And this is the serious end of the day. Expo Cycling with Tobias Johansson want to make a statement. It is Frederick Muff that has pushed off at the very last here. Here come Israel with Pat Bevan, Carl Freddy Hagen as well. When can you start thinking about going solo? 4 kilometres. Most difficult part of this climb is about a kilometre in. So we're talking in about a kilometre's time. A little bit more than that. It's about 2k's time, I beg your pardon. And then at the very end, Brian, it gets very, very nasty before a plateau at the last. Yeah,
it doesn't actually plateau. It's the last 150 metres of the steepest part of the climb, so it kind of ramps up. It's just slow drag up now, but it really kind of ramps up, and that's why a few riders were kind of holding back a little bit. It's not exactly full throttle at the moment. There's a lot of riders moving towards the front and trying to get in the best possible place. Mads Smith, now the Danish champion, leading the way here, but this is just a gentle ramp up, and the last 150 metres is the steepest part of this climb.
Here we go. Starting to kick at the moment. It's not even categorised just yet, and that seems rather unkind. A lot of space being offered up on one side of the road. That almost immediately gets filled by the hopeful. Uterbrechts is being brought up at the moment by Van Daal and Ida Schelling. Just who else is making a move at the moment? Out of position. A couple of the Quick Step boys and those who've done their turn. Now finding themselves. That was Mads Pedersen, by the way. And here we are. Time to kick in. Is it Bataglin? Waiting to see. It may well be Mulbrahan. I was telling you about precocious, I think is the word for Bardiani. We'll have a look. First little challenge as you look back to see who's going to take the bait here, Brian.
Yeah, definitely Bardiani and Mads Pedersen. He did his teamwork there. He probably realises that it's maybe not his finish. It's a tough finish, this one, and it gets harder towards the top. So thinning out a little bit towards the back, but it's a Quick Step in the blue leading the way with Evenepoel sitting right up there in the top 3.
Let's see how they respond to this. Not with panic, I think it's fair to say. Just trying to see who that was for Bardiani a moment ago. Can't get a handle on it. Hopefully in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, look over the shoulders. Catch me if you can. And guess what? Quick Step Alpha Vinyl are in a great place. Remco Evenepoel, we'll find out just how much he left behind after having to get back in not that long ago. Didn't panic. Looked like it was well controlled. EF Education. Easy to spot and plenty of options for them as a couple of shoulders get offered up here. Remy Cavagna trying to work his way back into a helpful position. Luke Plapp is here again and is guiding yet again the Australian champion. He's been phenomenal over the beginning part of the season. And indeed, with 2.1 kilometres, we're now well and truly into the climb. The tough section, or the first tough section, is just about to announce itself, Brian. I think once we go take this left-hander around this house, they're suddenly going to get a rude awakening. Let's see.
Yeah, we've kind of started to climb. I think the next part, it just kind of meanders its way up now on this road. When we get close to the 500 metres, it's not such as a hairpin. It's more of a strong curve to the left-hand side. So riders already have made an effort to get to this part. Well, it only goes uphill all the way to the finish now.
It is Cavagna that comes up centre of the road, and in fact, who is going to join them? A bit of a mark out here by Ineos Grenadiers. Nobody wants this to start running away from them. Quite frankly, at a moment such as this. In fact, there is Pat Bevan starting to loom large, and he does loom large. Looks very threatening, Brian, whenever he just puts his nose in the wind at the front of a pack like this.
It does, but nobody's really kind of wanting to take this on. You can see Timo Russen, the Dutch champion, came to the front there. Magnus Sheffield was the rider from Ineos that kind of shut it down. A very small select group. Wasn't a huge peloton at the start, but it's Bora now leading the way at the front. But it's not overly fast. Didn't expect it to be. This is going to be a kind of slow burner as we get further up this climb into the last kilometre.
Here we go. Has to be a kicker, as it's Varstad Bardzeng, I believe. Mr. Birdsong, will he be singing tonight? If it is him, I think it is, then Team Co-op have been busy at the beginning of the day, and they're getting busy at the end of it as well, Brian.
They are, and why not? Why wait? When you look around this peloton, there's some strong finishers, and they've already had a good day. Looks like they'll have the king of the mountains, but this is a kind of hit and hoper. You can see the rider he's made that effort, got a small gap, but he's starting to tie up now, and look behind, and he'll be soon brought back into the fold.
Spread across the roads, they are opening up right now. Evenepoel is in marking out mode. Is it Gegenhardt who's having a dig here, seeing who else is folding in? Timo Russen is tucked in. Likewise, Tobias Johannesson is up towards the 4, and it's time to go, Brian.
It is, but it's, tails at the front there. Evenepoel's there, Plapp. Everybody's respecting this climb. They don't want to go too early. There's not enough numbers. Saying that, there's quite a few pink jerseys there, but they're just sitting, waiting, and 1 kilometre to go, and everybody knows they've done their homework that the last 150, 200 metres are the steepest, and this is going to come down to a sprint. They're not going up here at pace, they're going up here at a good tempo. Magnus Sheffield at the front, but everybody's just waiting to make this final effort.
They are. Gianluca Brambilla from Trek is in a very good position as well. 3 from Education Easy Post. It'd like to be Esteban Chavez. Michael Valgren will be in the frame as well. James Shaw, I imagine. It has thinned down big time. Now there is a hairpin turn at 500 to go. And if you would like to round that first, now is the time, Brian.
Yeah, looks like Van Hooijdonk now at the front for Jumbo-Visma in the yellow, but not going full on. EF here, quick step, and is starting to break up. Plapp looking quite good here in 4th place, the Australian champion, but I think it will be kind of all action. Everybody's sitting, waiting. They know that it's difficult towards the top, and we'll soon be on that kind of 500 metres to go. So it's about pacing this effort. Everybody looking. It's a game of chess at the moment as we start heading round to almost a kind of 500 metres to go.
Chavez looking for space. Healy's in there as well. Looking at Johannesson in that. Yellow, and Theo Gegenhardt just a change of pace brilliantly so, drifts up past Magnus Sheffield. He's got Plapp on his wheel as well, and he's going for it. Picks it up now. Who's going to be tempted? And it's Esteban Chavez who comes around the outside. You can see Michael Valgren on the left, but Chavez goes on the inside here, and tucked in almost immediately goes Evenepoel, joining the fun as well, Carl Freddy Hagen, but that's Lucas Plapp likewise there, and also it's Asvold, I think, from Human Powered Health. It is that's up there. Gianluca Brambilla also in the frame, and a long shot. Here it is, and it's Perez who picks it up for Caio Rural. Well, he's a brave rider on occasion, and he's going to come around this headland, and Evenepoel suddenly kicks it up, and it's dust in the face of absolutely everybody. It's going to be a sprint for the line, and Evenepoel with Plapp on his wheel at the moment. This is fantastic. Has the barriers, has it all in his in his power by the looks of things. Can't see because we're screened by the fans here as to how this one's going to pan out. Evenepoel still holding on to it. Johannesson nearest to him, throws it to the line. Great work by both Johannesson here and Evenepoel to take it. That was brave from distance, I must say. Apologies if we just didn't see the full wrestle there. But Remco Evenepoel living up to the billing, I think you might say.
Yeah, all day he never was outside the top 10, and it was just a situation of waiting. I think that was a bit of a surprise to many there. That was a really difficult finish. I think probably harder than most people thought. But after being away to an altitude training camp, he's come back with a bang. He won that quite convincingly there. However, I was really impressed with Tobias Johannesson there. He really kind of took it to him, and I think that answered a lot of questions now. That was probably a harder finish than most expected. But that was quite a dominant display from Evenepoel, who waited just inside the last 200 metres there. And there will be some gaps in the end, but you know that sets itself up nicely now for the next few days. But it does look as if, and we've been saying this all day, Quick Step are not here just to make up the numbers. They never are in any race anyway, but the way that they rode today and the way that Evenepoel was riding all day in the top 10, they're not taking anything by chance. They want to come here and win this race.
Mullenbahan coming through here, Remy Cavagna likewise. Well, there'll be a few riders who are spent forces at least for today, but will regather themselves ahead of another tough day tomorrow. The difficulty tomorrow comes at the midway point, and then it's a flyer all the way home, Brian, for about 65 kilometres, almost of descending. I know we've got a few kickers along the way, but it'll be an interesting one. Different terrain, I think, tomorrow, to say the least.
Yeah, different terrain. I think the same could be said at every stage, but you know, there's one, you know, big mountain or big long climb tomorrow, and then it's pretty much downhill. But it's going to be very difficult. I think it will be the sprinters in their day, but you know, that finish everybody was waiting for it. The last 200 metres was brutal, but you know, strongest man won there. Maybe if I was to criticise Tobias Johannesson, maybe he gave Evenepoel a bit of too much respect there, and maybe he should have been the man that kind of forced the issue. We'll watch it here. Evenepoel, look at Johannesson. He's too far back. Plapp tries to go with it, but look at the ground that Johannesson had to make up. He just caught himself out. Should have been a little bit closer towards the front. He does make up the ground in Evenepoel just looks round there inside the last 50 metres, but really impressive from Tobias Johannesson. K comes up a little bit short, but if Johannesson had taken the opportunity, if he was towards the front, then it could have been a different story. But at the end of the day, Evenepoel won, and you know, Quick Step are in the driving seat, but Tobias Johannesson is by far not out of this, and will take this all the way to the finish on Sunday with Evenepoel.
Super work. Brian will be back with us tomorrow as we head to Gale. It was Prades who got